Hey guys, what's up? This is Lachette, and I'm back to talk about my most recent reads. I have more already, and I anticipate having tons uh, more for November. So I want to get this out. Um, more for November. So I want to get this out. This is like Witchathon, and then anything I was trying to finish finally. Um, so I read another story in the Sherlock Holmes compendium, whatever you want to call it, that I have. All of the complete works. I'm currently, as a reminder, reading through the stories in the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, and I read the Musgrave Ritual, which was more interesting than the previous short story. The ritual itself was interesting. And yeah, there's not much to talk about because these are like really short stories. And I really just want to finish the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. The impetus for that is the fact that there was a readathon I heard about happening in October. I found out like mid-October. It's called Victober. I'll put the link to the person or one of the hosts and their announcement video. But basically, you were supposed to be reading Victorian literature in the month of October, and some of Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes stories fall into that time frame of Victorian England, and I think Queen Victoria's rule ends in 1891. So the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes is the last published works before in that time frame. Everything else that I have not read in the complete works of Sherlock Holmes is after in Edwardian London, so it's considered Edwardian literature. Anyway, the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, as a very brief reminder, is for the most part a bunch of short stories that Watson is writing up about Sherlock's early cases. So these are memoirs. Sherlock is telling Watson about an old case from back when he was just starting as a consulting detective. And yeah, so we get to follow along. They're very short, they're not elaborate, not too mysterious even. So it's just an interesting look back, but it's hard to keep focused on them, even though they're really short. I don't do good with short stories because once a story ends, my body and my brain is like, okay, next book, when we're still finishing a book. But yeah, I thought this Victober was a good chance to do that. Also for Victober, I read The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde, and I should say I listened to the audiobook of a modern play. Not really modern as to say like they updated it. It's just that it was acted and recorded more recently than the play was actually written. That was quite hilarious. I loved it. That's one thing I like about some classic literature. Just certain time periods, there's a certain type of humor, dry humor, and which I think fits the term witty more than modern humor does, and I enjoyed the hell out of The Importance of Being Earnest. It's a story about these two guys who pretend to be earnest and they're trying to live their lives the way they want to. Kind of scheming society and these women that they're uh, dating. I don't know what to call, courting. Sorry, I forgot the word. And it is a complete ridiculous farce. Um, there's just, it's Oscar Wilde's like take on some things in Victorian society, and it all puts a lot of these airs, the reasonings behind things in a very funny light, whereas you realize more that a lot of what these people were doing in the society, especially the upper class, was really ridiculous when you think about it. And I just loved it. I shared a clip, I think, of one of the funniest parts to me in my first Witchathon vlog. I'll link it in the description and up above if I remember to as well. But yeah, the other book I read for Victober was A Woman of No Importance. Again, another Oscar Wilde play that I listened to the audiobook of. This definitely had some funny moments as well, but it also had some deeper, more serious moments, which I think was appropriate. Um, this is again Oscar Wilde looking at Victorian society and kind of pointing out the plot holes, if you will. Like, you guys are doing this, but it makes no sense. Um, this has a lot of overlap with the importance of being earnest, titles aside, but in addition, there's a really strong spotlight put on the differences between the sexes and how they're treated when they do something against societal rules. Particularly how men are thought of as better, and they're treated with more respect, and they're more wanted at parties and such when they're known to be a little bit bad, rakish, if you will, and uh, a man who would, I guess, deflower an innocent girl and then move on without having any consequences, basically. Um, but on the other hand, a woman, if she was in that situation, let's say the other half of that relationship, she's the innocent girl, she basically has to remove herself from society so as not to bring her shame onto the people she's around. She can't talk about it. She can't really do anything with her life. She just has to basically become a recluse. And no, you wouldn't want to tell your kids if any kids came of that illicit union, because they might not want to be around you either. There's just all this shame for the woman, but not for the man. So there was a serious look on that, but I do like the way it turned out. It got a little dark. There was some smacking, and but I also, it was still also amusing and witty and my type of humor, basically. So those two plays were recommended as the group reads for Victober, and since they were short, they were both roughly an hour and a half to hour 45 minutes long. I was like, let's do it. I definitely liked both more than my reading of Oscar Wilde's Dorian Gray last year. Lord Henry just really ruined Dorian Gray for me. I just can't get over my huge dislike of that character to really enjoy it, though I do appreciate Oscar Wilde's look at, again, Victorian society and what it lauds but versus what it shames and pushes aside. It was very interesting. Yeah. Anyway, so back to what I read. I was reading and listening to those short stories while reading The Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I picked this up for Witchathon, and this wound up being the only book I read for Witchathon. This fulfilled so many prompts. Let's just go over them. So there's a book that features your heritage. I mean, these are African peoples or black people, if nothing else. So that's me, my heritage. Communing with the dead. There is our main character whose Orisha power is connected to dealing with and communing with the dead, which I didn't know going into this it would. So she is considered a reaper, magi of life and death, and the deity she deals with is Oya. Dark and twisted. I definitely considered this dark and twisted. We have a storyline. Basically, we're in the country of Orisha, and the regular human king has taken over. He has gotten rid of magic in this world. Let me remind myself. Yes, he has gotten rid of magic, and he has, in the past, before the storyline of this book, he has killed all of the adult magi after he got rid of magic and left only the young ones who weren't old enough to get magic yet. But these young people and any family that they have that might not be magi are still treated horribly. There's all kinds of indentured servitude, abuse, physical, mental, emotional. They are, in some cases, put to fight against each other for their lives, and they all die. It's very bloody, very violent, and it just keeps going on and on and on. We just get to new heights of even slavery to an extent. And once the king finds out that magic might be brought back, he goes on and completely new killing spree. There's a torture scene in here, and just in some cases threats of sexual abuse as well. So dark and twisted. Pantheon of deities, definitely. So each of the magi have a deity of some sort. Each magi clan, they're all listed literally as soon as you open the book here. So there's that. So yeah, this fit 4 out of 7 prompts, and since I was only going to be doing 6, this is what I've read. This is following, several points of view. We have Zelly, but we also have Ayami, I think her name is. Zelly is a potential reaper. Her mother was a reaper as well, but she was killed by the king's order. And Zelly meets the princess, yes, the king's daughter, and she finds out that there's another way for magic to come back thanks to Amari, who kind of tripped and fell into this information. And we also follow Amari's brother, the crown prince Inan, who is trying to, live up to his father's legacy and what his father wants from him, but he's also finding that difficult, and they go on adventures. This was a lot. I felt like this was like 5 stories in one. This is not a complaint, but it was just like the way it's written. There's like a story arc, there's a beginning, a middle, things come to a conclusion, and then they continue on their journey. And then so the story comes in waves like that. I like the multiple perspectives. I wish we had got more of Zelly's brother's perspective, though. Um, I also love the fact that this takes from Yoruba and therefore African diasporic, uh, traditional spirituality. So we have a country named Orisha. It's very similar to Candomblé, Santeria, uh, Vodon, and so many other African diaspora traditions or religions, spiritual practices. I it's I like that it's very elemental and the emotions are real, the feelings, there's colorism in this. There's just a lot to identify with for me personally, but I've never read anything like this. I now see what all the hype was last year when this came out. There's a second book coming, and honestly, up until the epilogue, I was like, what more could she possibly put in here? But there will be, and we'll see how things go from here. But I definitely greatly enjoyed this book. I think I gave it 4 stars. There was some plot holes. I was just like, it makes no sense for us to have 3 days left to get where we need to go. Otherwise, magic will never return. And then to be told, oh, you know what? Will be good right now. Let's have a big festival and then tomorrow we'll leave instead of today. That makes no sense to me. That's just an example of some ridiculous points. So yeah, the next thing I read or I finished finally was The Education of Margot Sanchez by Lilian Rivera. This is a YA contemporary novel set in the Bronx. I'm a Bronx girl, so more rep here. Got this book out for Latin Heritage Month, but I don't think it came in time. And then, yeah. But I just like, I still have it. Let me read it. This was good. This was better than I was expecting. It starts out really light. We're following, I'm so bad at remembering names, y'all. We're following Margot. Hello. We're following Margot Sanchez. She is 14 or 15 years old. She lives in Riverdale, which is not part of the Bronx, as the people from Riverdale like to say, but yes, it is. It's in the Bronx. Riverdale is a neighborhood in the Bronx. It's not its own borough, guys. I don't care how wealthy the people who live there are. It's not its own borough. Anyway, we follow Margot, who basically has to work at her parents' supermarket. They own 2 in the Bronx, 2 locations. One is smaller than the other, but she has to work at the main branch because she stole her father's credit card and racked up over $1,000, I think, worth of charges on the advice of some friends. Margot has recently been sent to a boarding school where lots of other and actually more wealthy kids go. Um, Margot was supposed to go to the school with her friend, but her friend didn't make it into the school. I forget why exactly. So Margot goes to the school by herself with the urging of her parents to better herself, to connect with those who seem to be going somewhere, to be doing great things, and to basically be like them and try to get herself and her status raised. So Margot takes this idea and runs with it, and she befriends 2 girls who don't have good relationships with their parents and do all kinds of not great things, and Margot basically changes as a person, and that's how we get to her stealing money. Now, she was supposed to go to the Hamptons with them to hang out and get closer to this guy at their school, but because she's in trouble now, she doesn't go. She's stuck at the supermarket where all kinds of drama is going on. Her brother is there, but he doesn't do a lot of work. He just likes to boss people around, and he's acting quite weird. Her dad is there, and both her brother and her dad don't like, so she talks to this guy who is a neighborhood activist that has a table set outside. So there's that. And we just see Margot learn about really what's going on with all of her family members, because they like to follow what a lot of Latinx people do, at least here in New York. Um, or it's just like, as long as you give the appearance that everything is good, it doesn't matter. We don't like to talk about bad things. We just like to sweep them under the rug. So Margot finds out what's going on with her family members and why she's getting in trouble for doing what she thought her parents wanted her to do. And she learns more about the Bronx and her friends, both old and new, as well as the other people in the supermarket. And it's really very good. This turned out to be deeper and a little bit darker and more intense than I was expecting, especially in the beginning. Margot is not an idiot, but she's very consciously making the choices that she's making, but she doesn't have all the information that's necessary for her to make good choices. And that's made very clear in this. It's not that she has no culpability, like she's not at fault. It's not everyone else's fault. It's just that she doesn't have the life experience. So the title of this book is truly appropriate. It is The Education of Margot Sanchez, and it's very good. I think I gave this 5 stars, especially for that ending, which I wasn't expecting things to be so explosive. Next up, I finally finished Once Ghosted, Twice Shy by Alyssa Cole. This was a novella follow-up to what I read last month. This is a novella in the Reluctant Royals series. We're following Lakotsi, who connects back up with Fabiola Lakotsi. I guess she's like, she was the prince's, or she still is, the prince's personal assistant in the previous book. So we already know she's fly as hell and on top of her shit. And she gives great advice, as well as being a loving and warm person. But she basically hooked up with Fabiola, and that was going on in the background of the previous book, but we didn't see it. So in this book, in very short novella, we have 2 timelines. We have the spring, what was happening last time, how she and Fabiola met, basically on an app, a dating app like Tinder or something, and they kind of like instantly got drawn together, but Lakotsi both knew, because Lakotsi was upfront about it, how she would be leaving and going back to Africa soon. And so despite things getting really deep, really quick with them in connection wise, they wound up splitting because Fabiola at the last minute was just like, I don't want to see you anymore, basically. Don't contact me. And she deleted the app off her phone. Now, their other timeline is winter, which is currently Lakotsi's back in New York. She happens to bump into Fabiola on the train, and they have this weird adventure. And Lakotsi's trying to figure out why Fabiola did what she did, but is acting like she didn't want to. It took me a long time to get into this for whatever reasons. I don't know if I just wasn't in the mood, but once I got about halfway through, things just picked up for me and I got through it very quickly. I like their relationship. I like both Lakotsi and Fabiola. I liked Fabiola's reasoning. It was all very realistic. Other than it's definitely insta love, but it's still realistic, more so for me than the previous book. I just like this better. But yeah, check it out. The last book I'm going to talk about is Baptism of Fire by Andrzej Sapkowski. Sorry. This is the next book in the Witcher series that I've been reading all year. I really enjoyed this. I had to take a break because I started the library book too late and had to send it back. So I got the audiobook, which took a while to get to me. And I think I'll be doing the rest of the series in audiobook. The audiobook gets me past the beginning hump. All of these books start out really slow and with point of views that care about because we don't know these people, and it's frustrating as hell. It's like, what are we getting to details of Geralt and Yennefer and Ciri? So things have moved along. Yennefer, we find out what happened to her towards the end of the book. Geralt, as well as Yennefer, both pick up their own like motley crew, their own fellowships that's similar to Ciri at the end of the previous one, and I like that. We have tons and tons and tons of Dandelion, or Dandelion, who I absolutely love. He's my favorite in this entire series, and he's all over this. I love Dandelion. And I don't know what else to say without giving away spoilers. Oh, so like a lot of the political stuff is starting to be clarified on multiple levels, and we Geralt's crew in particular is like trying to help him distill like what he feels and what he truly believes about his life, about Ciri's life, about his relationship with her, and also with Yennefer, and what he wants and how he's going about to get it. He needs to be more realistic and less of a loner, basically. And I enjoyed the entire fireside cooking scene while they're all talking about him like he's not there, and he's just like off pretending not to hear them in a huff. It was hilarious, but also necessary. I don't like where things are going with Ciri, but it's not so much writing that I don't like. I just don't. I'm unhappy. Like I want better for her, and it's probably not gonna happen. And it's just I feel for girls and for Yennefer. They basically somehow over the course of the series become like her parents, and now everyone's separated, and things are not going well. They are both very strong characters in their personality, but in their abilities, and they got messed up really bad. They both got their asses handed to them in the last book, and now they're kind of out of sorts and don't know what to do. And Ciri's off on her own, experiencing not so good things with not good influences and not becoming a better person. And so those are the books I'm going to update you on for today. Thank you so much for watching. Have you read any of these? What do you think? Um, just to wrap up Witchathon, I was supposed to read one other book, but I did not. Unfortunately, I didn't yet feel like reading Ritual Facilitation for a book with fire on the cover. The other prompt was to read the group book, but getting in the ninth, and I said in my my TBR that I would not be reading that. So the last prompt is pictures of my costume. I showed this in my second Witchathon vlog, but I'll put them here. This is me as a witch early on in the week for Halloween, and this is the witchy hat I used, and this is me as a Mori girl in September during Camp Anime, and yeah, that means forest girl in Japanese. And I wore other outfits, but this one was my favorite. So thank you so much. If you like this video, hit the like button. Please subscribe if you want to see more of my reads, TBRs, and my series I want to finish. I That's coming later this week. If you want to be my friend on social media or on Goodreads, the links are down in the description. 10% discount code off of my Etsy shop of witchy bath and body products is also in the description. Let me know what you think about these books. I have a lot more to say about both the Education of Margot Sanchez and The Children of Blood and Bone. Let me know what you thought of both of those. If you participated in Victober, let me know what you thought of the group reads, the two plays as well, because those are funny. If you haven't, do check them out. They're short and entertaining. And that is all. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.